So that's a great description of how the process that we have to engage in. And I want to introduce a concept that because we talk about synthesis and we talk about polarities in
Yeah.
psychosynthesis. So if the tendency or the drive to assert oneself is a natural part of being human, to assert who we are, to say what we want, to speak up, to express our needs, to belong. We have to assert ourselves to have all these things, to follow our dreams. You were trying to assert yourself in a strict environment as a child. And when you weren't able to satisfy that drive towards self-assertion, a natural response of anger blossomed in you, or naturally arose in you. And then over time, you work with that tendency towards becoming angry, so that when you become an adult, if there's a moment where your drive to self-assertion may be temporarily interrupted or blocked, you don't become enraged. The old pattern you don't become Viking Ken.
I hope not.
So that's the process of spiritual maturity, that as you become a more psychologically integrated and mature self, your relationship to that moment, you can deal with obstacles to self-assertion in a way other than rage or violence or throwing things, right? So that's the point. So there is this drive towards self-assertion. And then on the other side of the polarity, what I call, if assert is one side, accommodate is the other. Because assert is the yang. We assert ourselves. It has yang energy. It's necessary to assert who we are, and then on the other side is the yin energy, which is also very important, which is to be able to accommodate. That it's not all about what I have to say. How do we accommodate others? What is their point of view? How can we learn to yield at times as well as assert? So if you think about, I like to think about the way people drive their cars as a way to practice with this. Some people are very assertive when they drive. So and they seem aggressive. So sometimes I'll be driving along and a big truck comes driving up within 5 feet behind me, or 3 feet, and I get out of my way. And I could sit there and I might get angry. Why is this person being so difficult? And then after I read Assagioli, I realized, oh, this is just not a very well integrated moment of self-assertion. This person does not want to accommodate me in any way. They're not going to give me a moment to get over into the other lane. So you can start to see in all forms of aggression, somebody just asserting themselves, but there's a distortion. The person's level of assertion is so intensified that there's no accommodation there. And so people who become overly developed, if that faculty is over energized, a person can become self-absorbed, get out of my way, they're overbearing. A narcissist would be somebody who has a lot of self-assertion but very little accommodation. They don't accommodate others. And then some people they've developed the accommodation side, and they know how to accommodate others, but they might not assert themselves. They can make plenty of room for everyone else to speak, but it's harder for them to speak up.
Yeah, it could be a people pleaser.
A people pleaser. And so the person who has accommodation is able to connect with others, to accommodate, to allow them, they create a space in which others feel that they really belong. But that person, in the distortion of the accommodate, is passivity, or even enabling situations to go on that really aren't working for them, because they continue to accommodate and accommodate. So sometimes people who are narcissistic or self-absorbed attract people who are accommodators, and it just allows that conflict to continue.
Exactly. Yes.
And then I thought, well, what's the synthesis? So if you think one more example about driving, if you come up to an intersection, and I was discussing this with my wife, because I tend to be an accommodator. So I get to the intersection, I let everybody go, maybe, and then I might get into the intersection and I'm going very slowly, just through the intersection. And my wife, She gets to the intersection. She waits for her turn, but then she gets in and she gets out. Like she just asserts it's her turn and she goes. And I realized that even if you think you're accommodating everyone, you're not really helping the flow. If everybody's at a 4-way stop and nobody goes, then you've got a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But if everybody goes, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
So we need the synthesis of assert and accommodate. And I think when you have both, you have harmonious flow.